Holy God, G. Willikers Batman, that was probably the best Superman movie I've ever seen. I really didn't think it could happen, yet here I am, pleasantly surprised and mind blown. I was going through bad superhero fatigue before this film came out. Like, if I had to sit through another 2 hours of quirky one-liners and tight spandex,
It means get lost, Squidward.
I was gonna lather on the clown makeup and rob a bank. I plugged my ears every time a new MCU film hit theaters and people kept saying, okay, but this one's different, this one's actually good. And in my opinion, every time I've been right, except now. Disclaimer, however, I am not an expert on Superman, let alone comics in general, be they modern, old, Marvel, DC, etc. That's why I brought on a very special guest to make sure I don't fuck up. Everyone give a warm welcome to Shake.
Hi, I'm Shakestar. Teehee. When I say I'm a superhero movie fan, my family and I used to go to midnight premieres to see the Dark Knight trilogy. My earliest memory of seeing a movie was seeing the 2002 Spider-Man, and hell, I remember seeing Ben Affleck's Daredevil in theaters with my dad. But let's look at modern superhero movies as of 2025. We're in a bit of a silver age for superhero films. After nearly a decade of the MCU dominating the box office and DC/Warner Brothers trying to catch up, they've finally lost a bit of steam for a number of factors. Oversaturation. We were having a minimum of 2 MCU films a year since 2012, and that's not including Sony, DC, or other companies' attempts. Repetitiveness was another cause. They all looked very samey with copy-pasta plots that feel like they were written to set up future films that haven't even been made yet. This, in turn, flattened narratives to simple backstory meant solely to hype up the big cameo fest where the story actually seems to matter. Last but not least, quality drop-off. Excluding the failures of the post-Endgame MCU films like Ant-Man 3, Thor Love and Thunder, and The Eternals, movies like Morbius, Wonder Woman 84, and Kraven the Hunter had filmgoers acknowledging the post-COVID superhero films just didn't hold a candle to films like Iron Man, making them more cautious on what they pay the price of admission for, so thus making the industry have to take a step back on how they handle future projects. You couldn't just tell audiences anymore to spend $25 on a movie ticket just because it possibly is connected to another movie they might like in the future. We've forced the industry to give us quality over quantity, which makes Fantastic Four and other films we're talking about, like today's, such a breath of fresh air.
Alright, since there's so much I want to cover, let's do a quick rapid fire round of stuff we enjoyed. Firstly, I love the immediacy of the camera in some of these action sequences. Your standard blockbuster storyboard features giant, wide shots of CGI explosions and composited buildings crumbling like gingerbread houses. And while you still get that with James Gunn's direction, there are these great, low-to-the-ground shots that separate foreground and background with just a simple camera movement. It's a great way to show sense of scale and use different words in the language of cinema than other action films, so to speak.
I love the film's embrace of camp and the wackiness of the DC/Superman universe. It's no secret that DC has always had a fear of embracing its wackier side. I blame that on Superman 4, 1997's Batman and Robin, and the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern film. All of them played at DC's sillier side but failed on different levels of film, to the point that for almost a decade Zack Snyder would try to rectify and change with a brooding, dark, and uninteresting Superman, attempting what Nolan did with Batman but failing to understand why it worked in the context of those movies. Superman 2025 goes out of its way to give us a Superman that doesn't just talk about being hopeful, but actually being hopeful, fun, and visually interesting from his costume to his performance. Despite it having way too many characters, the characters we see and meet on Superman's quest for peace are likable and enjoyable. The film never looks down on its source material, taking the Blue Boy Scout as someone who, despite not being physically as strong as previous adaptations, feels emotionally strong. There's this feeling of sincerity that superhero movies have forgotten, but James Gunn is a master of writing ensemble casts. Yes, even including the 2002 Scooby-Doo movie. Each character feels so genuine and oddly real, even to the maniacal Lex Luthor.
I also really enjoy the nature of Lex's villainy, how it truly represents the banality of evil and everyone's complacence in it. From the Hawaiian shirt-wearing interns in the desert to the Silicon Valley tech bros who treat destroying Superman like they're competing in League of Legends Worlds, Lex's sinister and self-centered plot is built on a foundation of other people's neutrality, exploiting the work of otherwise good-natured people who are just doing their job. He and the Baravians have a realistic political goal motivating them as an antagonistic force in the story. And don't worry, we'll get to the real-life parallels in a moment. But it's a brand new perspective on movie villainy and 100 times deeper than if we kill Ares, then World War I is over.
Another point I like about this movie has to be the focus on smaller characters who aren't highlighted as much in other media than some cameo appearances or one-off episodes. I love the attention Mr. Terrific is getting, not just off-screen but also on-screen. Second to Superman, he had to be my favorite superhero in this movie, and I'm excited to see where his character goes in the future movies or shows or whatever they're deciding to put these characters in.
But can we talk about Superman for a second? I haven't seen a more human depiction of an alien on screen for a long time. It takes a special kind of love for the genre to write a character like this. This version of Clark Kent is filled with nuance. He's not always perfect, he gets into petty arguments with Lois Lane, but most of all, he's still mortal. Fandom and hype culture have kind of reduced our understanding of superhuman characters to power scaling and meme debates. I don't care if Ultra Instinct Goku could beat Superman in battle or vice versa. Whenever I hear this debate, my Ultra Instinct is to beat you and do a bloody fuck, which is why I love the slower, intimate scenes where the Man of Steel isn't in battle. Whether he's paralyzed and waiting to be dragged to safety, or he's being crushed under the weight of a kaiju, when he has to gather himself and recover just like the rest of us, it brings him closer to the average viewer and makes his character more man than super. This is how you make an all-powerful character work. Their invulnerability has to be conditional, subject to their physical well-being. Superman's abilities are beyond human, yes, but that does not make him inhuman. But my dear viewers, dare I say it, I believe this film is a lot more significant than we are giving it credit for, even with all of this ecstatic buzz around it. And I really hope it's an indication that popular cinema could be trending towards better places. Maybe it's me being a pedantic a-hole, or maybe film school has just permanently altered my brain to hear Werner Herzog whispering in my ear like a force ghost whenever I watch something.
Murder.
But I caught a glimpse of an aesthetic choice that James Gunn made that, either intentionally or incidentally, succinctly summarizes what I think makes this film truly unique. Fernando Solanas and Octavio Getino are two Argentinian directors who spearheaded something called Third Cinema, a film movement that criticizes colonial, capitalist ways of thinking, telling stories, and propagandizing. It's a very complex topic that deserves its own video, but I wanted to make this one first. Basically, think of it as film from the third world. Focus less on entertainment for its own sake and more on building a national identity in the gaps that colonialism left in their cultures. Now, I could dip into Solanas and Getino's manifesto that coined the term in the first place, Towards a Third Cinema, but I find that Bolivian director Jorge Sanginés Aramayu's writing on the topic are a lot less clinical and more expressive, which kinda lends itself better to the crazy loose association I'm about to make between a Hollywood movie and an artistic movement that specifically went against the Hollywood filmmaking model. Apart from directing Blood of the Condor, a fantastic film that actually resulted in real political change in Bolivia, Sanginés wrote an essay entitled Problems of Form and Content in Revolutionary Cinema, which I found in a book that I might have photocopied for myself from my old school's library without permission. Here he analyzes cinema's means of conveying information and how it works or could change in order to make films that are more representative of lower class struggles. Now, he mostly talks about the films he had a hand in making, but I find the language he uses to be very elegant and at times inspiring, even when removed from its context. A film about the people made by a screenwriter isn't the same as a film made by the people through a screenwriter, inasmuch as the interpreter and translator of that people becomes their expressive vehicle. With a change in the relations of creation comes a change in the content, and in parallel, a change in the form. The movies we watch, if they truly wish to say something profound, they need to reflect how the public feels and responds to the world around them, not how some out-of-touch studio execs expect us to feel. On that note, one way that third cinema tightens the gaps between the people and the filmmakers is to focus on a collective understanding of characters. For example, one of the most famous films in third cinema is Guillermo Pontecorvo's 1966 masterpiece, The Battle of Algiers. Made less than a decade after the actual events it depicts, this film centers on the Algerian War for Independence against the French. This topic and movie also very much deserve their own video, so to cut to the chase, Battle of Algiers is renowned for its use of documentary aesthetics and employing non-professional actors and crew, boasting at the beginning that not even 1 foot of newsreel or documentary footage is included in this picture. Even more shocking, many of the people on screen are non-actors who were actually present and involved in the revolutionary acts they are depicting, including the lead Brahim Hajjaj playing the famous rebel Ali Lapointe. For most of the film, Ali fills the role of the stock cinematic hero, but when he does, you know, that thing heroic characters do in films about revolution, spoilers, the final scene shows the main character status shifting to the people of Algeria, subverting the Hollywood model of one-man hero storytelling. Now, I can see James Gunn's Superman attempting some similar story beats. For starters, in comparison to a lot of other superhero flicks, this one actually admits that the world can't be saved by a single man. To quote Sanjines again, "In revolutionary cinema, the final product will always be the result of individual abilities organized towards one same end, where the spirit and life breath of a whole people and not just the problems of one man alone is captured and translated." I think this quote loosely articulates what makes this Superman so much better than its predecessor from the Snyderverse. As good as they are, as okay as they are, Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman lean way too hard into the personal angst of the main characters. Like, this whole, oh no, he was forced to kill Zod angle is weak because the movie expects me to care more about how Superman feels rather than the whole city that was just leveled. The story begins and ends with one character. It's tone-deaf and short-sighted is all I'm saying. Here, you get the best of both worlds. You see Superman's emotional reaction, and you see the same in the people around him. You understand this world, not just through the eyes of one person, but as a multifaceted and layered universe where many people's lives are affected by each decision that's made on screen. Nowhere is this better demonstrated than in the Baravian invasion of Jarhanpur scene. The children raising the Superman flag and praying for him to come, the shots of the people. While it may not exactly match the Battle of Algiers, a similar sentiment is at least being expressed and alluded to. Where have you seen a popular Hollywood film get this explicit with its references to real life? This film is practically screaming its message at us, and we still have debate bros rendering said message toothless with more culture war BS. Alright. Whether or not anyone who thinks this is even watching or has already left a comment calling me a woke scald, I anticipate a certain criticism being lobbed my way when comparing a superhero film to something as explicitly leftist and revolutionary as third cinema.
Stop making this movie political.
Or something to that effect. This is the kind of slop you hear from people who, fundamentally speaking, blatantly miss the point of a lot of movies that they pretend to be experts on by talking a whole lot. Take it from someone who sacrificed 4 years studying this stuff, the moving image as a concept is political. Just look at Marxist film theory and the works of Sergei Eisenstein, or the fact that D.W. Griffith, the pioneer of American blockbuster cinema itself, was cutting together anti-black, anti-integration propaganda pieces well before the Second World War. Film was propaganda before it was ever storytelling. This was always the case, even when you were young. Superheroes didn't become woke, you just became an asshole. Now, Superman is not by any means third cinema. However, if I may throw my hat into the ring, I think it represents a step towards it, as incidental as it probably was. Consider this video my towards a third cinema. A manifesto on how Hollywood could appropriate some of the visual languages of third cinema to make better movies that carry us through and inspire us during these troubled times. But then, that only begs the question. When Superman is over, the credits are finished, and the projector grinds to a halt, what do we do when we cease to be the audience? We leave the theater, and we become the performers. As a student of film, I've sort of been trained to see every movie in the historical context of when and where it's from. This is why I make videos about how close-up is inseparable from the political situation of the Iranian Revolution, and how Santa Claus Conquers the Martians is about Cold War America. That scene with the terrified child praying in the crosshairs of the Baravian soldier, it didn't just remind me of Battle of Algiers or Third Cinema. It reminded me of images that I've seen far too many of over the past 2 going on 3 years now. So this is something that I've had in my family for a long time. It was a gift from a family friend. Longtime viewers of mine know that my fascination with film is also filtered through the lens of a fascination with other cultures. And I love learning about different languages, customs, and histories, and the fact that I might be seeing one of them erased before my very eyes, and the fact that my government is complicit in that, it's something I can't stand for. It frustrates me that so many of us seem to relate better to fictional characters than real-life people. And even further, it angers me that we've fostered this culture that for some reason sees things like empathy and compassion as signs of weakness. And to that I say, what is the point of watching movies, especially superhero ones, that are all about fighting for what's right, when you're not going to apply that same viewpoint to the real world? When did it all of a sudden become righteous to spit in the face of lessons that we all should have learned in kindergarten? Anything other than acknowledging the suffering that is being purposefully inflicted on a group of captive people is a delusion of comfort. You get to ignore a starving population when it's all the way across the globe, but not when it's your own stomach that feels empty. If you have the brain power to see yourself in fictional characters, but not in other people, then you are ignorant at best and callously indifferent at worst. I love the speech that Superman makes at the end of this movie because it proves that empathy is our strength. It's what makes us human. It's what made him, an alien, human. But this isn't a movie. This is real life. And we don't have an all-powerful Kryptonian who will swoop in and save us. We have to save each other. And while virtually none of us have the power to stop bombs from going off or to fly in and save people from falling buildings, it's not about lamenting the many things that you cannot do. It's about dedicating your time to the few things that you can do to make a difference. Below, I've left a couple of links to fundraisers for people living in the Gaza Strip. No guilt if you don't have the money to donate, but every dollar counts. Apart from that, you can make a difference by speaking out against the genocide and the terrible injustices that have been perpetuated on the Palestinian people. If this Superman film meant anything to you, then this is your chance to be a real hero, even if it is in a very small way. So where do we go from here? Well, I think we need to acknowledge that as hopeful and inspiring as Superman's message of kindness is for us, we need to go above and beyond. All of my stretch film theorizing aside, does Superman have anything in common with the Third Cinema movement? Not really. But am I saying that our collective praise of Superman is part of a larger cultural phenomenon for progressive ideals? Maybe, if we take time to understand art's relationship with history. Media in itself will not save us. A film alone will not bring us world peace. It's not enough to have the right opinions if you keep them to yourself to feed your own sense of personal righteousness. Speak out. Make every injustice that much harder to ignore. Lift up the voices of those who have been silenced. And if it's within your means, donate your time and money to the cause. Bridge the gap between thinking right and actually doing right. I leave you now with the wise words of someone who even Superman looked up to.
Your choices, your actions, that's what makes you who you are.
Hey y'all, thanks for watching. Hit me with a subscribe, a like, and leave a comment because you all know I love it when the comment section becomes a den of film nerds mouthing off at each other. Please, 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 if you have the time and the money, donate to some of the fundraisers I linked in the description. It would really mean a lot. And yeah, special thanks to my friend Shakestar for helping me out with this one. You have anything you want to plug, Shake? Shake? Uh-oh.
Meanwhile, in Shakestarverse.
Oh boy, I can't wait to consume more product. I can't wait to watch the next big superhero action blockbuster movie and buy Funko Pops. We don't have enough superhero movies. Please give us more superhero movies. You know, I make my jokes about that, but honest to God, that was literally me during high school. Like that was literally me all throughout high school.
Oh, yikes. Well, you know, little you must be geeked right now.
If little me saw me now, I would like tell that little about like just telling them to start getting involved with politics.
Yeah, actually.
I know you're 15 right now, but I need you to commit voter fraud. We cannot have that mother in office.
Please, 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 please.
Oh wait, this is still recording. Subscribe to Dead Air Films and also check out my YouTube videos. I make really cool anime reviews. It would be really awesome if you like and subscribe and checked out my channel. And also, Kristy, I'm making you do a little part of my next video if you want to hop onto it. But until then, see you guys next time.